All right, guys. I know everyone is stuck inside, away from work, hiding from COVID-19, just like Geralt is hiding from his destiny in the Netflix Witcher series.
Fuck.
But, I have got an add-on for you for the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. If you're going to play this game during this hiatus of life, let's call it, keeping ourselves hidden and away from the struggles and the hustle and the bustle of the real world, self-quarantining, if you're going to play the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt during this time, I have got an add-on for you. And it's about the best part of the game, and that, my friends, is Gwent. Gwent Redux is a complete overhaul of the Witcher card game in the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. This mod modifies vanilla card values and their effects, adds more than 60 new cards, updates almost all of the character portraits on the cards themselves, and it improves the AI decks and makes Gwent more of a balanced, fun to play, and an extremely lore-friendly experience. Also, more cards will be added and thematic expansions in the future, and most of these are kind of already out already. The current expansions are Origins, Wild Hunt, Syndicate, Brokilon Forest, and the Toussaint region. There's going to be a religion-based expansion coming soon, but the changes that are already here is enough to sink your silver sword into it and have a blast. So let's get into what they've actually changed, and we'll talk about why it's a good thing, okay? So as you would probably know, if you're a Gwent connoisseur like I am, pretty much, regardless of the faction you choose in the base vanilla The Witcher 3, most of your decks are almost the same, because most of the hero cards and a fair chunk of other cards outside of the hero cards as well are actually neutral. So, you know, there's Triss, Dandelion, Zoltan, Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer, all the kit and caboodle, all those guys, they're all neutral. So you add them all to every single deck, and they all feel, yeah, you know, mostly the same. They're different in some regards, but they're pretty similar. Outside of that, regardless of the deck that I choose to play, I usually play the same kind of style, where I just put all of my hero cards in, I just throw them all out as fast as I can, and I have a bunch of spy cards so that I can keep drawing cards and have more cards than my opponent, and you just kind of auto win if you have, you know, 4 more cards than your opponent, because you just whittle their cards down to none, and then GG, it's over. But you can't really do this in this mod, and that's why it's so engaging, for me anyway. So what happens is, all of those neutral cards, they've all been split out into the different factions. So Triss, Dandelion, Zoltan, and Olgierd is Northern Realms, Regis, Avakalir, and Cow is Monsters, and Villain is Scoia'tael. There's a couple that are still neutral, like the School of the Wolf Witches, and Ciri and Yennefer, because they are the most neutral cards in the decks. And some of them have been promoted to leaders, so there are less of them overall. And the leader cards are no longer copies of the same leader with a different subtitle. They are different actual leaders for all of the 5 factions. Now, there are a couple of other big sweeping changes to the formula, which I'll talk about as well. So Scorch and Horn have both, for the most part, been removed. They're now added to cards themselves. And a lot of cards outside of this as well have multiple different effects and new effects added, which really keeps the gameplay flowing and it feels nice and fresh. The Madriome card, which is a Skellig exclusive, is now in most of the factions. And a lot of the other cards now and newer cards that have been added have this regrowth and hidden power effect, where when this card is played, or there are even other cards that also have this effect which trigger this ability, they kind of evolve into something else. So the example, Detlaf the vampire evolves into, spoilers for Blood and Wine, Beast of Beauclair. Each of the factions has had significant changes to their cards, and they've all got new effects and new portraits, and a lot of them have a new summoning effect, which isn't new to the game itself, but they link to cards relevant to them. So Yennefer of Vengerberg summons Geralt of Rivia, for example. They're neutral cards, but the same effect happens in a lot of the different factions. Nilfgaard has a bunch more spies, because that's, you know, what they're really known for, and the decks really feel more unique. So if you're playing a Nilfgaard deck, you want to load up on spies and have as many of these summoner cards as possible, and just spam out spies and then spam out cards afterwards. You can't really do that as much with a lot of the other decks. So I found Nilfgaard to be a bit more closer to my normal playstyle, where I used to just play Northern Realms because it didn't really matter. But, you know, Nilfgaard is kind of a bit closer to what I used to play, but I actually found monsters to be the most enjoyable, which is kind of strange because I never really liked them in the past. Their unique cards was really cool to play around with, and especially the designs, like the Witches of Crookback Bog have the coolest card designs, and you summon them all at the same time. There's also a lot of different summoner cards in this faction, as well as the Wild Hunt expansion, which is one of the expansions that the mod developer has added to the game. The Skellig deck has the most potential with the Hidden Powers Matriome's ability. They have a lot of cards which are of the lower strength, and you have to use that ability, whether it's on a card or on the actual unit cards itself, to uplift and power up your units. What I actually found was really cool is, there was one round where I was actually going to lose, and I knew I was going to lose this round. So I played a card that had a hidden power, and I used the Matriome ability to activate Regrowth, and then I used my decoy card to put that card back into my hand. So for the next round, it was actually the powered up version of that card. I think that's a really cool, unique way to play this game, and it just adds that complexity which wasn't there before. Now, the one faction we haven't really touched on is the Scoia'tael, and they're mostly, the same. They have a lot of these additions with the tight bonds effects and the summoners, as well as the flexibility with being able to be put into melee or range. That's all still here. They're still that agile faction that they were before. They were one of the more unique kind of factions in the vanilla game, where that you always kind of knew what you were going to get with them. They're a bit more agile with the melee and range flexibility, and they didn't really have a lot of siege, and that's still all kind of here, as you would expect. Okay, so look, we've talked a lot about the cards, we've talked a lot about the gameplay, but how do you get them? Now, this is what's really exciting. All of these cards have been added, including the additions that were added, their expansions, and the 60 new cards that were part of the base set. They have been added around the world for you to find as part of your normal gameplay. You can't go to one vendor and just click a button and get all of these new cards. You have to go find them, and you have to beat people, and you have to play the Gwent card game to get these cards. That's fantastic. And what the mod developer has also done is he's updated the Miraculous Guide to Gwent to include all of these new cards. So when you go buy that great book from Joe Blow in Novigrad, you now know which cards you're missing as part of this mod and its additional expansions as well. It's just brilliant. Now, if you want to spoil the fun, you can look up this great PDF which has a list of all of the cards, and if you look on the mod page itself, it tells you where you can find most of the cards, especially the expansion ones, which, maybe I cheated a little bit and went and got these just for this video, but that's neither here nor there. And on top of that, this mod is completely lore friendly, and the achievements have been updated to include all of these new cards as part of the Collect 'em all collectathon and the quest in the game. There's just so much. Like, everything that you can think of has been thought out, and all of the, big battles, if you will, with, the Baron, Siggy, Vernon Roach, they've all got unique decks that have been made by the developer to spice up the gameplay. Plus, if you play with the Enhanced Edition or Ghost Mode Overhaul mods, there is a patch, and you can play with this fantastic Gwent mod with those Overhaul mods that basically completely change the entire game. So not only could you get a completely new Gwent experience, you could get a completely new Witcher 3 experience with either of those mods. It's like a whole new game. It's no secret that I'm a huge Witcher fan. I'm reading the books currently. I've played The Witcher on multiple consoles, all of the games. I've watched the Netflix series twice, mostly twice. I think I'm halfway through my second watch. Who knows? I've watched it a lot. Majestix511, who has created this mod, has done a fantastic job, and I'm incredibly impressed with what I've played. The link to the mod will be in the description below. This is just a clear, clean-cut package, and I really like this whole concept that he's done. A lot of these portraits and stuff come from the Gwent standalone experience, but this doesn't change what the Witcher 3 Gwent experience is. It doesn't make it like the standalone Gwent game. It's still the Witcher 3 Gwent experience that you can expect, but it's just got updated cards, updated portraits, all these new features, and it's just fantastic. I really like this mod. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of this mod, if you play with any other mods, if you like this style of video, if you'd like me to do more of these mod kind of discussions, which I have been tinkering around with The Witcher specifically. That's all from me today. Thank you for watching. My name is NorZZa, and have a great day.